Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Garcia. I'm the Executive Director of the 22Q Family Foundation. And thank you for joining us on our first donor call, our top supporter call. I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day on this Sunday and for your generous donations that you have given us in the past to help make everything that we do possible. I also wanted just to take a minute to thank all of the speakers that you'll be meeting in a little bit for taking also time out of their day to share what they do or how our services have impacted their lives. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, I am going to be recording this, so if you have to jump off or get cut off at any way, I will be sending a link of the entire call in an email when it is complete. And also, if there's a mute option for all of our attendees, so if you do not feel like you'll be speaking, then just make sure that your microphone icon is on red. Otherwise, if it's on green, it just means that we'll be able to hear you while you're listening. And if you do have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to write those in the chat box, or there will be times throughout the call where I will be taking questions and answers, and feel free to just say those aloud. All right, so here's our agenda for the call today. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are, supporting families, helping in the school system, how we help with adult transition, and how we wish to grow. So our mission, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. We're dedicated to raising awareness for 22q11.2 deletion syndrome while connecting, supporting, and offering accurate information to families affected by the disorder. And we're going to jump in and talk a little bit right now about who we are as far as our board members and our consultants and volunteers. So the 22Q family, we're made up of 4 families. You're going to get to meet them in a little bit. I've had 4 children born with the deletion syndrome, all 4 unique journeys. 22Q is really a spectrum disorder, so there's really no 2 kids alike. And we're also going to chat a little bit about our former relationships with the Dempster Family Foundation, which we'll hear more about in a few minutes. But we all come together, as one team with one goal and one mission, and that's to help support and connect the families that are diagnosed with 22Q. All right, so I'm going to start by talking a little bit about myself and my family. So my name is Lindsay Garcia, again, for those of you that are just joining us. My husband is Ryan Garcia. We are 2 of the founding board members out of the 3 current board members that we have. And we came into the world of 22Q after our son was diagnosed through an ultrasound, your normal 20-week ultrasound, where they determined that he would be born with a heart defect and had some fluid on his kidneys as well. And they decided, let's go ahead and, if you want to do genetic testing now. And of course I did. And so we found out he would be born with 22Q. He was born very surprisingly healthier than we expected, not needing open heart surgery at 36 weeks. And he actually had better APGAR scores than my daughter. But after the first few days in the hospital, he just really was having lots of medical complications, breathing and feeding issues. And we ended up going in and out of the hospital for 17 weeks total over his first 4 months of life. He is one truly, truly amazing little boy. He's only 5.5 years old, but he's gone under anesthesia 13 times. I've almost lost track at this point, and has had over 10 surgeries. And his biggest accomplishment recently is after 4.5 years of using a feeding tube, we were able to remove it, and he can fully eat independently on his own. He loves to ride his bike, and T-ball is his favorite sport. So a lot of our kids are very typical in some ways, and then other ways they, really need a lot of support to get them there. But they're just amazing, amazing human beings, and I'm so thankful to have him in my life. And our family lives in California, so we're kind of all spread out. I'm gonna go ahead now and introduce our 3rd board member. He's our newest board member, Kapil Kumar, and let him share a little bit about his family.
Thanks, Lindsay. My name is Kapil Kumar. I live in Chicago. And as Denise mentioned, some of you guys have met my wife at the Moms Retreat. I have 2 kids. Niam is our 22 cutie. He is 5 years old, and Amaya is 3.5. As Lindsay said, I just joined the board very recently, officially at the beginning of this year. Lindsay and I started talking and working together last year around the time of the 22Q Worldwide Awareness Day at the zoo, because I was helping coordinate the event in Chicago. And so that was how I got involved. I am a serial board member, as you'll see on my bio on the website. I am a member of a number of boards, a few of them at Lurie Children's here in Chicago, simply because I felt like we could do better what the hospital was already doing. Just like Lindsay said, we have kind of a similar story. Niam was diagnosed at our 20-week ultrasound. They found a heart defect. They asked us if we wanted to do further genetic testing, and we agreed. And Niam was born 39 weeks, and he had open heart surgery at day 4. He also had feeding issues, and so within the first 2 months, I think we had him on his G-tube. We were aggressive in weaning him off of the G-tube, and we got it out right before Miss Amaya was born at 1.5 years. And he's had, 2 open heart surgeries, 4 angioplasties, G-tube, ear tubes a number of times, and a few other things here and there. But he is also an amazing kid. He surprises us every day, and it's incredible to just watch him and see how much is in his little brain, and how sometimes he has difficulty communicating it with us and getting it out. But he is just such a loving and amazing kid, and we love him very much. As I mentioned, we live in Chicago, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the activities in Chicago a little bit later.
Thanks, Camille. All right, so I mentioned earlier about our previous work with the Dempster Family Foundation, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, because that was a big part of how we got started. So when Ryan and I found out that our son Cohen would be born with 22q, we were currently living in Chicago, and we immediately, after our 20-week ultrasound, decided to do some internet searching, check with Dr. Google, and came across the Dempster Family Foundation. And I think the minute we found out that this was a foundation that was started by Ryan Dempster, and for those of you who are sports buffs, he is a previous Hall of Famer pitcher for both the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. His daughter was also born with 22q, and that is how he started his foundation. And so I can still remember sitting on the couch with my husband and him looking at me and saying, Ryan Dempster's kid has this, we're going to be okay. And I think that just brought such comfort to us, seeing the celebrity that was so open about his child that was born with 22q. So we wanted to do everything in our power to connect with them and help them and fundraise for them. We created these really bright and amazing 22q awareness socks that we sold to families nationwide to help raise funds. And my husband also worked with a local brewery in Chicago and created a beer named after our son called Cohen's State of Kind. And on the back of the beer, it actually told about the syndrome, which was pretty amazing. To have an awareness piece on a beer was kind of incredible. It did sell out at all of the local BevMos in Chicago, and we were able to give those funds back to the Dempster Family Foundation as well. When the Dempster Family Foundation decided to close their doors in mid to late 2015, my husband and I really didn't hesitate at all. We knew this would have been a huge loss to the community, because they were so family oriented and really ran by families and focused on supporting families, that we decided, why don't we try to start our own nonprofit and follow in their footsteps. And that's what we set off to do. So we're gonna, next item we're gonna talk about is, now that you know a little bit about who we are, is how we support families, which is obviously really what all of your funds and donations have helped us be able to do. So we support families in 3 different ways: through awareness, education, and connection. And I'm gonna get into these areas in a little bit more depth in a minute. But for awareness, awareness is so huge for our foundation and for the entire 22q community, just because, just to begin with, the variety of names that this syndrome has makes it very difficult to have a typical civilian know what 22q is. So some of the previous names are DeGeorge syndrome or VCFS. We're really trying to come to like a one name campaign so that we can hopefully bring awareness to the everyday citizen as far as what 22q is, and get more people diagnosed and living a better quality of life. So we raise awareness through social media. Social media is huge for us. We have over 15,000 followers on Facebook. We also moderate the majority of the 22Q Facebook support group. So every state, we have a 22Q like California group and a 22Q Arizona group. And that's a way for the families that live in that state to connect and for us to also share opportunities that are going on in that state for them. Um, we've also been running now for 3 years our November awareness campaign. So the month of November is 22Q Awareness Month, and so we really try to go out strong with pushing awareness and reaching out to our families and supporters like you to talk to your employers, talk to your neighbors and your colleagues about 22Q because that's just one more way it's going to get awareness is going to grow for us. We also present at and participate in industry conferences, trying to keep ourselves up to date on the latest research and data in regards to 22Q. Supporting families, we also, our main thing that we're going to be spending a huge chunk of time on is how we support them through education. So we have two different programs that we offer. Our IEP support program called Education Station, which you'll learn about in a little bit with Donna Cutler-Lansman, who is our amazing consultant. And then we have our Career Pathways program, which is fairly newer. And Jason Osborne volunteers and does an amazing job at helping young adults transition into adulthood with that program. And connection. So I think connection for all of us, especially on the board, all having children with 22Q is, there's something to be said about meeting either virtually or in person another family that's gone through a similar journey as yourself. And we really want that to be a major focus as well for our foundation, providing community outreach through, local gatherings, but also if families are interested in planning local events in their area, that we can help support that, we can help promote that and organize, the fundraising for that. So I talked a little bit about awareness. I just wanted to share one of our big social media campaigns that we created when we first started called #RockYourQ, and just to give a little bit of background about what that is. So for those of you that are on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, please make sure to follow us. For those of you that use Instagram, you know that lots of things go viral and certain hashtags become very popular, and that's something we're trying to do with this hashtag is to make 22Q a household name. What we've decided to do using the #RockYourQ. The Q is actually the arm on, to get really technical, the arm of the 22Q gene has the piece of the missing 22nd chromosome. It's actually on the Q arm. So when we created this, it was a way for us to say to the community, hey, rock your differences, rock your missing gene, be you and stand up for everything that you've overcome as a way to kind of put power back into the individuals that suffer from 22Q. And we also wanted to get out there and spread awareness. So we have this digital Q that you can pull up on your phone, or you can download off our website, and you can, people have taken it all over the world. You can see it right there in front of the Wrigley Field sign after the Chicago Cubs won a World Series that they hadn't won in hundreds of years. And then Bill Murray to the right, which is pretty amazing. He had just been at the game and ran into a friend of ours, and so he was able to learn a little bit more about 22Q that day, and using the #RockYourQ. So that's one way that we help spread awareness is through our social media. And just to share a little bit more about connecting. So like I said, connecting is very important to us, being that we all have families, and just building that group of cheerleaders behind you and your child. We planned last summer, along with three other 22Q parents, was our first 22Q Moms Retreat in Arizona. So we had 36 moms come from 13 different states that had children ages 7 weeks to 35 years. And it was a time for the moms to regroup, to relax, and really to connect and find themselves again. I think for a lot of us, moms and dads, we kind of take on more than just the parent role. We're the caregiver, but we're also the pharmacist. A lot of our kids are on lots of medicine. We're the organizer of scheduler of doctor's appointments, and we take on a lot. And so just to give these moms a chance to kind of find themselves again before having a child with 22Q, but also I think intentionally we really wanted them to connect. And it was the most amazing experience to see this group of moms that many have never even met before, some just virtually, to have that immediate connection and bond that they had. We do plan to have these more regularly, and we really would hope eventually to open it up to family retreats and or retreats for fathers as well. I'm going to turn it over to Kapil, and he's going to share a little bit more about connecting, how we help families connect, specifically what he's done in the Chicago area.
So we've done a couple of different things in the Chicago area. The way in which I first got involved was the 22Q at the zoo, which many of you are going to be familiar with. We attended the 22Q at the zoo event in 2017, and I believe in 2015 as well. But when we went, there were about 20 people that showed up. The gentleman that was arranging it, he was doing a great job in terms of, what he knew how to do. And he told me afterwards that, we have a $200 budget. It's hard to know who's going to show up and where we should have it. And so, I'm a fixer by nature. And I said, look, let me help you with this. I think that, we can raise some money. I think we can do a little bit better. So let's just kind of work together and see what we can accomplish. In the meantime, he ended up moving to Texas. So I ended up taking it over, ended up planning the 2018 22Q at the zoo in Chicago in about 4 or 5 weeks. And we ended up going from an average of 25 people at the 22Q at the zoo for the previous several years to 200 that registered and 150 plus that actually showed up at Brookfield Zoo. It was a paid event. We raised almost $10,000 to help offset the cost of the event and have additional events and activities in Chicago. And that was how I got connected with Lindsay. And they were generous enough to let us, work with them to kind of reach out to the community and understand what the needs were and figure out, the best way to execute this and really get the word out. So felt like it was a successful event. And Lindsay and I kept talking afterwards and, felt like there was a good fit. So, some of these pictures here, it's me in the middle speaking. On the left is the group picture that we had in 2018. For 2019, we did this again, and it was kind of co-sponsored by the Family Foundation. Obviously, this is a international foundation event and kind of awareness day, and so we wanted to be mindful of that and not detract from that. But at the same time, we put in the resources from the Family Foundation to be able to have a successful event, to be able to kind of, have the upfront cost outlays. And this year we had over 200 people registered and 186 that attended. It was an amazing day. The weather was terrible, as it has been in Chicago lately. It was supposed to be terrible. There were supposed to be storms coming through, and it looked like we had a window that morning for just the event where it wouldn't rain. So it rained while we were driving over. It stopped, and then right as we were driving away, torrential downpour as well. But had a great turnout. On the top right, you can see we had someone that was doing crazy amounts of bubbles. We had a performer come out, so that was it was a lot of fun. It was, again, a great way to just, for people that had met at their mom's retreat, that had met the previous year at the zoo, a great way for them to actually connect in person. It's one thing and somewhat impersonal sometimes to do it over social media and be responding to groups, but to actually have that kind of tangible one-on-one, face-to-face time is really great. We were able to have some great speakers as well, partnering with some groups in the area. An occupational therapist came. We found out that the zoo actually has a great inclusion program where it's called the Zoo for All. They want to make it accessible to everyone for people with different dispositions and needs. And so they are going to be partnering with us in the future for other activities as well. Another event that we had in December, we had a neurodevelopmental pediatrician speak at Lurie's to a group of about 50 in person and another 25 or 30 online. And we talked about, what is 22Q from a neurodevelopmental perspective? When do you need to seek help? What does that mean? A lot of the challenges that our kiddos are going to face, they're not necessarily blatantly obvious. So, some of the psychological issues, the anxiety issues, they're not, it's hard to know. And we're actually struggling with this with our son right now. How much of it is related to 22Q? How much is it that he's just not feeling well? And who do you seek support from and help from? So she spoke for about an hour about, what is the developmental progression for kids with 22Q? What are the warning signs? What are the things you should be looking for? When do you reach out for help? As we all know, mental health services in the country are not readily available to many and not, super robust. And so we want to make sure that people are able to get the support and resources they need ahead of time. And part of that is just having the conversation. So kind of a mixture of the awareness and the connection. There's not only awareness about 22Q, but also within the 22Q community, making sure that people have the resources, the tools, and the information that they need to help their kids be their best selves.
Thanks, Carol. All right, so we talked about who we are and how we support families. Now we're going to share really what our bread and butter is, helping how we help in the school system. So, you know, we provide, I'm a previous teacher. I didn't think I shared that in the beginning, but I have an education background as well as Donna Cutler-Landsman, who will be speaking next. And in general, the majority of our kids that have 22Q need some type of support in the school system, whether it's, you know, modifications or, you know, additional testing. Donna's going to share, you know, in detail about what she does, but for the majority, our kids need support, and usually that comes through an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. And so Education Station is a program that we actually inherited from the Dempster Family Foundation, and it's something that we've continued to do because it is in such a need. And when you hear later from Denise about the impact that it's made on her child and her situation, you know, it just shows how much of a need this really is. We also, Donna, you know, also helps with finding alternative schools. A lot of times the public school system is not, you know, necessarily the best fit. And so trying to find the most successful program for our children. They don't fit into that, you know, typical special ed box. And we also are going to talk about transition plans for adulthood. So, you know, these kids eventually grow up from being kids into adults and how we can make them be the most successful, you know, grown-ups after they graduate high school. So I just want to talk briefly about some stats. This is from our 2017-2018 annual report. And for anyone that would like a hard copy, I'd be happy to send it out to you if you just reach out to me. But I wanted to share a couple stats from that report just to kind of show you the impact that we are making, you know, not just at a local level. So we had 18 families that received direct assistance in applying for SSI. We'll be sharing more about that in a little bit. 170 situations where the IEP team agreed to add more goals and accommodations. So that's, you know, really when Donna is going into these IEP meetings that she'll be sharing about, where there's actual change that's happening to make a difference and improve the success of these kids in the classroom. 84 instances where services were added to program as a result of the interaction, and 80 school districts that received direct training and input by our educational advocate through IEP attendance. And another stat that I do not have on here, but I wanted to share is, you know, over 1,000 staff members have received some form of education about 22Q. And so that just goes back to our mission of, you know, raising awareness. And we're not just trying to meet the needs and serve the children and students that have 22Q, but also the greater community, so that the professionals that are working with these kids have a better understanding of how they learn and what they need in order to be successful. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Donna Cutler-Landsman. She is our educational consultant, and we are so pleased for her to attend this call and share all about what she does.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm really, really thrilled to be here, and I'm especially thrilled to be working with the Family Foundation on this mission of educating the schools and getting these children into programs that are effective and supportive of their situations. So a little bit about me. I've been a teacher. I was teaching for over 35 years. I helped train teachers for the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I have been a consultant and speaker for over 20 years on issues related to the 22q 11 deletion syndrome. I also am an author of a book out on educating children with velocardiofacial syndrome. It's now in press for the 3rd edition, so I'm very excited to be able to bring that new book to the community next year. And really looking back, very, very excited to be able to share my expertise and my knowledge and my journey that I had with my own child that had the syndrome and is now 34 years old. So I've been involved with this this disorder since 1994, with a lot of history and a lot of education by attending conferences, and then also providing services to families and school districts and professionals really around the world to better the lives of these kids. So what I'm going to talk about is basically the process that we go through through Education Station. I do want to point out that this is a free of charge service that's provided to families, many of whom have financial problems and really cannot hire an advocate or hire an attorney to help them navigate the pretty overwhelming school system requirements through IEPs and evaluations. So just to step you through exactly what I do with this direct service to families. There is an application process that we have on our website. The families just fill out an application. I receive that in my email, and within 5 days, I call that family and speak to them on the phone, trying to understand their situation and offer them some suggestions and ideas for support or what they might be able to do in getting better services. If they need more than that initial just conversation, I would ask to gather records. The family will send me the evaluations that have been done on their child. If they have a current IEP, the current IEP, and any speech and language or occupational or physical therapy reports. I go through these reports very carefully. I try to, in my mind, figure out what would be a plan for this child. Sometimes I will actually write a report then for the school. Some of these reports can be pretty lengthy, where I will pull together my expertise on the 22q11 deletion syndrome and that child's individual needs, and pull this report together, and then I can actually attend the IEP meeting virtually with the parent via conference call or video conferencing. And I can either present this report to the staff, or I can just voice into the IEP meeting and give suggestions and help them understand what kind of tests should be done, how these kids learn best, what sorts of supports they might need, and if the placement needs to be changed, ways that the staff can work with the children behaviorally, academically, to make their journey through school a little easier. I keep in touch with these families. We have follow-up calls, we have follow-up meetings, and many of the families are really repeat, that they will come through and have, you know, multiple things as their children age. So some of these families I started consulting in 2008. So some of these families I have followed for several years already. But it is a process with each individual family that's completely tailored and to their child's unique needs. So this isn't a one-stop-fits-all. This is a very tailored program that Education Station offers, and it is a direct hands-on assistance for families and schools. And I think that piece of this is what makes this so useful and so helpful to families. So the additional support that's provided is curriculum research and recommendations. I can assist the school staff with writing actual programming to work with the children. Sometimes the school will recognize that they cannot provide the services that that child needs, or sometimes parents feel that they've really exhausted what they can do with the school and they want to look for an alternative placement, and I will be involved with finding that, helping them find the alternative placement. Sometimes I call these schools, look at application processes, talk to the intake at these other schools to see if it would be a good fit. We look for community resource assistance in some cases. I have been called upon in court cases, in mediation cases, and due process to give expert testimony. And I've also been involved with applying for Social Security and getting those young adults who are transition age set up so that they can be successful in the workplace and also on their journey to adulthood. So this is a process that really starts preschool, and through Education Station, that support can be given all through that child's life until they exit the school system and our launch, hopefully successfully, into adulthood. I think Education Station really is a unique program. Across the United States, I'm not really aware of any other program that really does what this program does. It is really personalized help for each child. The interventions are targeted to meet that child's individual needs. I work very, very hard on keeping up on the research of the syndrome by attending conferences and networking with other researchers, so that the research that is done and the studies that are published, I can then translate that research and bring that right into the classroom, right into actual direct service and application into the school setting. And because we're taking that research and really applying it to the need, it has the potential to make an incredible difference in a child's life, because it changes the tests that are done, it changes the program, the programming, it trains the staff, and it really gives parents and families hands-on assistance, especially during times of crisis or times when they really feel at a loss and unable to get programming and have their children's needs met. So Education Station, through this program, which is open to any child really globally, we do mostly in the United States, but we have had children in Canada, in South America, in Ireland, and in Great Britain, actually, who have benefited from this program in some way. I wanted to talk just really briefly, just to put a little bit of a personal face on what some of these situations are that Education Station has become involved with. And so I picked out 4 kind of typical cases of things that come to me through this Education Station process. So the first one is a mom in New Jersey. She has 2 children who are very medically impaired, very medically involved, and a husband with the syndrome. This year, this spring, I was pulled into an IEP meeting with the youngest child who was getting ready for his 3rd open heart surgery. And since January, because he has a compromised immune system, he was a kindergartner, but the school district was only providing 3 hours a week of school support. And the doctor did not want this child to attend school because of the immune issues. They were worried about the immune compromise. But the school district did nothing to really figure out how they could maybe work with this child in a different way. So right now we're looking at educational placement in a facility for medically fragile children that would allow a clean environment where we could control germs. And then beyond that, we're working at virtual school, because he requires way more than 3 hours of school a week. So sometimes it's really thinking out of the box, and we're setting up a virtual school with this young child, and hopefully that's going to be a placement that we can get in working fall of next year if he's still unable to attend school because of his health issues. A family in Vermont who had a young girl in middle school who had such severe anxiety that she refused to go to school. The school district didn't know how to deal with her, and what they decided to do was they were going to go after the mom, and they took her to court and charged her with truancy because she was unable to get her child with 22q out of the bedroom and get that child to school. We filed a complaint with the state of Vermont, and the state of Vermont ruled that the school district needed to work with this child and do a behavioral program. We were finally able to get this young lady in a private placement. She is thriving in the private placement. She is no longer truant. She goes to school every day. She has friends. I just had her IEP meeting a few weeks ago, and it just brought such a smile to my face because this girl is thriving. And we are thinking about transitioning now to adulthood with this young lady and putting her in job placements. And really, when I think of that journey of being holed up in her bedroom and her mom in court, and that's where Education Station became involved with that family. I have another family in Vermont, a single mom who called me in tears. She has terminal cancer. She has stage 4 cancer. She has and she's a single mom. She has a high school son with the syndrome, and she is scared to death about what is going to happen with her child once she succumbs to her terminal illness. So we worked really hard with the school system, getting supports in place, getting family members in place, and putting together a very strong transition plan for that family. And finally, I'm going to talk about a family in Kansas that this year, 18-year-old child with an IQ in the cognitively disabled range in the 60s. This child had no skills. The school district decided through their IEP, because he passed all of his classes, that he was going to graduate at age 18 with no services. I stepped in. I said that this was completely ridiculous to graduate him. The school district did back down. They agreed to allow him to walk in graduation, but they agreed to pull together a strong transition program for him for next year, and he is going to have several hours of academic support every week, as well as job placement, as well as taking a course at the community college under school district supervision. So they are going to provide a wraparound transition plan for this young child who would have just basically graduated high school with no future. So this is just 4 examples of some of the families that really are the product of the Education Station program.
Thank you so much, Donna. And, on the phone, I'm so delighted to be able to introduce Cantor, who is another family who has received, the direct services of our Education Station program and the support and help of Donna. And she's going to share a little bit about her son, Sam, and their journey and how the Education Station has truly made an impact on their lives.
Yes, hi, hello everybody. My name is Denise Cantor, and I have a son named Sam, who, yes, was diagnosed at the age of 5 years old. He was born in 1997, 22 years ago. He just turned 22. And when he was born with a cleft palate and a club foot. And we were really in the blinded sided, so to speak. We did not know about his diagnosis, like we said, at 5 years old. And it was really just by fluke that he was seeing a plastic surgeon about his cleft palate. And he looked at Sam and said, I think that I should send you for a fish test. And it came back positive for 22q. And that was kind of the start of me gathering information and trying to see how I could help him. But back then, there really wasn't anything like the Education Station, I didn't have any support. I really took this on by myself. But 11 years after, I met Donna, and it was just by fluke again that I was on Facebook scrolling around and saw a post about the Education Station and Donna Cutler-Landsman, and I immediately called Donna, and we spoke about the Education Station and how this program would help us. And indeed it did. Donna, like she said, sat in on our IEP meetings. She directed the special education coordinators at the high school and his teachers. She directed the IEP meetings, sat in and explained to them about 22q, how to teach Sam, how the best placement for him, the best way to modify his learning. And it really made a huge difference on his years in high school. He was successful. He was able to graduate. And like Donna said, she was instrumental on him in his high school year, making sure that there was a transition program in place for him. Um, and actually, he surprised us and actually went overseas to study through a high school program abroad, and was very successful with a one-on-one program. But without Donna's guidance and support, I probably wouldn't have let him go on that journey. So she has really been a huge impact on our life. Donna has taught me to better understand 22Q. And like Lindsay, the title of this slideshow, taking the mystery out of 22Q, Donna definitely helped me to understand my son and understand his limitations, the difficulties of living with 22Q. And she's also helped us tremendously with realizing that we need support through a government program through SSI. Right now, we're in the process of going to a hearing in a couple of weeks to hopefully get the support that he does really need to live independently and just the services that the government provides to help him. I didn't realize that we needed this support until I met Donna. She has helped us just with the day-to-day challenges and helping me to understand the outcome of adults that have the 22Q syndrome. I definitely was living in denial, thinking that I could take this all on my own, and I'm realizing now that he is 22 and is an adult and wanting to live independently, that how much we need the support. So I'm very thankful for Donna. I really wouldn't even be here today speaking with you about that my son has this syndrome. It's allowed me to be more open about the syndrome and to be able to talk about it. I again would not be able to speak about this, and it's just, she's been a huge impact, as well as the whole foundation, Lindsay, and I'm just very thankful to have this support and be able to speak with you all about it. It's extremely important to help families, at all ages, and I'm very thankful to have the foundation behind us.
Thank you so much, Denise. I really appreciate your open and honest testimonial and sharing with all of our donors, like how their donations are really making a difference in real people's lives like yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we've spent a lot of time talking to you guys. I wanted to give you an opportunity for a little Q&A. If you have any questions of any of the things we've covered thus far, you can feel free to post those in the chat box or speak openly. Okay, well, we will move on. So our next item on our agenda is helping with adult transition. So like I said, I mentioned Dempster Family Foundation helped us get us our start. When we started this foundation, we were able to inherit the Education Station program that you just heard so much about from both Denise and Donna. But there was still a huge need in the community, really just a huge desire for support for young adults and adults with 22Q. I think when these kids are babies, a lot of them are medically set up very well. They might struggle medically, but a lot of doctors in major metropolitan areas are able to help support them. And as they get into school, we have, the Education Station program. But as they're graduating high school, And as Denise had kind of mentioned, for families that aren't aware, every kid is different, but a lot of them do struggle to live, rather independent lives and lead, have successful jobs, and that's due to a number of different things. There are quite a few psychological things that can come later on in their lives, and also some of them are not able to drive, and some of them also struggle to like self-advocate for themselves, when they do hold jobs, not being able to share openly with their employers what's going on with them, and what are their needs. And so more oftentimes than not, we're seeing a lot of our young adults that aren't able to lead as successful lives as possible, and we wanted to do something about that. And that's the Career Pathways program that we will be talking about next. But I also wanted to touch on what Denise had just mentioned about supporting families with applying for SSI. Donna works really closely with families for that. It's not something that's a given, and especially for kids with 22q, it's something that oftentimes needs to be properly applied for, and oftentimes has to go to more or less a fight to get that support that they need. And Donna had mentioned earlier the transition plans for adulthood. That usually can start as early as the teenage years, getting them ready for graduation and what their plans are going to be for the future. And the other exciting thing that we had created on our own 3 years ago was the Riley Dempster 22Q Family Foundation Scholarship. This was a scholarship that was created in honor of Riley Dempster, the daughter of Ryan Dempster, who I had mentioned earlier, as a way to pay homage to him for helping him support us with our start. And it's a scholarship that we've been offering now. This is the third year we're offering it. We're accepting applications to the end of this month to award 3 individuals that are attending either a 2 or 4 year program or a trade school or vocational training school. And so they apply, and we give 3 different monetary awards for $2,500, $1,000, and $500. And this is something that we've done now for 3 years. And we want to continue to do to help, show our young adults that are able to overcome those obstacles, to continue going, and how important education is for them in the success of their life. So I am going to now focus in on our Career Pathways program. This is a new program that we created a little bit ago, and have Jason Osborne, our amazing career coach and volunteer, that came into our lives, and he's going to share a little bit about himself and all of the amazing work that he has done, and then you'll be able to hear from a family that has received those services directly. So Jason, I'm going to let you take over.
Sounds great. Thanks, Lindsay. So yes, I came in contact with the foundation when in 2017 we had a little girl born with 22q. Her name was Shanna, and you can see her picture there. We also have a little boy. We have two boys. One that we adopted the end or around August of 2018, and then we have a 6-year-old boy, and then we had a little girl born within the last. She was born in May, so she was born really recently. She joined our family. So as we found out about Shanna having 22q, we found out at our 20-week ultrasound. And what I really was interested in is taking the skill set that I have in human resources. So I've dedicated education towards human resources, and over 7 years of experience when it deal with hiring and training, and really working with employees of billion-dollar organizations, international organizations. And one of the things that we wanted to do, my wife and I, is really give back to the 22q community, because in the end, the way we look at it is every young adult that I work with, and I would actually even expand that not just to young adults, but to adults of all ages. At one point, that could have been our little girl Shanna. So that's one of the main reasons why we have been involved in the 22q community. So we, one of the things that we do when we work with adults, our main focus is looking at how we support young adults going from that high school age group into college and even trade schools, or those who are just wanting to work part-time or volunteer. So we found that as I've done the one-on-one calls, we do one-on-one calls with them. We've really used it as a really looking at it on a case by case basis, because we've noticed that every situation is different, and we really look at each case differently that way. So we dedicate the time one-on-one to get to know the needs, set goals with the individual, and look at really what their pathway is. And that's one of the reasons it's named career pathways, is everyone has a different pathway for their career, and we want to discuss with them what their goals are and where they want to go. So this talks through a little bit of the process when we are meeting with the adult, and so submission is done online, and then as we meet one-on-one, it really is each call that we do. At the end of it, I invite the adult that I'm working with to do something. So it could be, okay, we've walked through building a bullet point for your resume. By the time we do our next call, which is usually a couple weeks, I need you to create 2 more bullet points. And one thing that I've really seen with this process is it really keeps them engaged. I found for the most part, as we do these calls regularly, so we'll call every couple weeks, we'll talk. Each time they've done something in the meantime that's really kept them engaged, and it really helps them have more buy-in to and really more energy into the process, and helping them with that. And in the end, so we've had multiple people be able to get jobs. We've been able to create resumes, create a LinkedIn profile for them to network. In the end, they can look back and say they did it. At no point in this is it the 22Q Family Foundation providing them a resume and saying, okay, here's your resume, go ahead and use that. It really is them being engaged in that process the whole time.
Thank you so much, Jason. And so I wanted to introduce next Ann Still, who is the mom of Jonathan, and she has a great testimonial to share about how Career Pathways has changed her life and her son's life with becoming more independent and more focused around what he wants to do. So I'm going to let you go ahead, Ann.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm Ann, and Jonathan is 31 years old. We live in Fort Worth, Texas. Jonathan, like many of you discussed, has a lot of health problems when he was born. Open heart surgery when he was 6 weeks old, skull surgery when he was 4 months old, pharyngeal flap surgery when he was, I think he was in 4th grade then. I have Jonathan's father, Randy, on with me too. He might pop in and add some comments. But Jonathan, struggled in school. We've had visitations with Donna Cutler-Landsman too, which has been very helpful. Pretty much went through regular education through the state, and in high school decided to put him into a high school for learning differences, which he thrived at, by the way. He did a lot of different things that he would not have participated in his public school, his public high school. Played golf, played football, played basketball. He has anxiety. He would have never tried to even participate in any of the programs in public school. So that was a blessing. After that, he graduated, and I think I was kind of like Denise. Maybe I was a little naive about what was going to happen in the future for Jonathan. We have 2 other children, and we're both college educated. I just thought that Jonathan was going to go to college, you know. So we put him in the community college here, and he did fairly well, actually. He was able to get, like, he has 42 hours of credit so far. He started doing that, and then he began to want to work part-time. So he got a part-time job and went to school too, which was a lot. He had to dial back on his college classes in order to be able to have the time to work and do school. So typically he would be taking 9 hours of college in a semester. So I was doing pretty good up until, I guess it was 2013. He had, unfortunately, a stroke. So we were not anticipating that to happen. However, we were, you know, fortunate in the fact that it did not end up affecting him that much. He went through rehab and did great. After that, it was like, what do we do now? You know, we were struggling, and he took a couple of classes, but really wasn't interested in it. And I was always worried about, you know, what is he going to do for a living? He can't support himself, you know, with the part-time jobs that he had. So we began to look around, and one day I was surfing the internet like all of us do, and I found the 22Q Family Foundation Facebook page, and I looked more into it, and I ended up contacting Jason to see if he could help us. I was trying to look for Jonathan more of a job for his career, basically, not just a part-time job. Jonathan, after his stroke, I was very proud of him. He went out and got a job on his own at Walmart. So he's been working there, but we're ready to move on. We also, at the time of his stroke, got him on Social Security, which helped, you know, financially. But he still was yearning for something that he could call his career. We started working with, about the same time that we contacted Jason, we started working with Texas Workforce Solutions, which is a state agency that helps people with disabilities gain employment and supports them after their employment. Jason encouraged us to continue that process, which we have. But there were so many things that Jason helped us with and is continuing to help us with. We would meet and do our virtual meetings. He helped Jonathan prepare a resume. Jonathan had never had a resume. That would begin to be very helpful when we were looking for jobs through the Texas Workforce Solutions also. He worked with us on career pathways. He helped Jonathan kind of look at different opportunities of areas that he might be interested in working in. Got a LinkedIn, set him up with LinkedIn. Jonathan did all that. It really boosted his confidence unbelievably. He really, prior to that, felt very isolated to the world and to the business world. So getting on LinkedIn really kind of helped him see that, hey, he's like, you know, the next person. He's got a LinkedIn account. So it's just been a godsend for us, really, that I happened to find Jason and the 22Q Family Foundation. They've been such a huge help to us. And like I say, continuing to be, too. Jonathan, as a result, went back to taking some more classes. He's taken a class this semester in TV production, which he really loves. He'd never taken it before, but he's doing well in that class, and he's very proud of himself that he is doing well, because that's not, you know, always the case. But I do feel like that Jason and the 22Q Family Foundation has been so helpful to us, because we were just lost. We had no way to, I had nowhere to go. I was just struggling, thinking, what could I do? And it was just such a relief to know that there was an organization out there that provided that service that could help us figure that out. So we really appreciate it, and we just can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Anne. I really appreciate you sharing that testimonial, and it's so great to hear that Jonathan is making progress and, you know, setting out to make those accomplishments with our support and with Jason's support. So we really appreciate you taking your time to share a little bit more with us today. we're going to stop right here. And if anyone has any questions on anything we talked about in regards to our Career Pathways program, feel free to put them in the chat box or share them.
So while we're waiting for that, I know we're running a little bit short on time, but I think one of the important things to point out with the Career Pathways program too is that, you know, it's not just about helping the kids and the young adults and the adults figure out their path. It's also Jason working with the families to help parents understand what their child's capabilities are. For families that have a child with 22q or with any other issues that kind of prevent them from leading full independent lives at times, I think that it's we have a tendency, or even kids that are medically complex, we have a tendency to shelter our kids and to try and you know, believe that they're capable of maybe less than what they actually are capable of, to be more helicopter parents than is sometimes necessary. And I think that Jason helps a lot of families overcome that as well as just kind of laying out, you know, what are the objectives here that we're trying to meet? Is this young adult or adult going to be living at home? Is it the goal for them to be independent? I mean, just realistically, the ability for someone with 22q that is not able to live independently, that is living at home, to have some extra spending money to be able to go see a movie might be life-changing for them, some way to get out of the house. And I think that those things are, you know, equally important as actually finding the specific path.
Okay, we're going to move on. So our last agenda item is how we wish to grow. So, you know, everything that we've talked about is currently, you know, what we have been doing, but we have some great plans. I'm going to let Kapil share about kind of our near-term and our longer-term plans.
So I'll let you guys read this, but a few of the things that I wanted to touch on are just improving the things that we already do well and improving some of the strengths. I think that Lindsay and Ryan have done an amazing job working on building the foundation. You know, in the first couple of years, you spend a lot of time just setting up, getting acclimated, getting people to understand who you are and what the objectives are. And so now it's a question of, great, we have this following, we've been able to do some really great things and help some families, as you've heard on this call. And so what can we do to make it even easier and to improve connectivity even more? One of them is to improve our website. It was a website that we inherited from the Dempster Family Foundation. And we want to just make it a little bit easier to navigate and a little bit more cost effective on our end to improve the utilization of the dollars that are coming in. We also want to continue to attend conferences. Lindsay said that we, you know, present in and participate at a number of different conferences. This year, we have plans to be attending a nationwide conference in Columbus, and Jason is going to be one of the keynotes there, which is fantastic. We also plan to attend the 22q Family Retreat in Texas to try and, you know, just be able to talk to people and talk a little bit more about the services that we provide, just like we've been able to do on this call. You know, Lindsay had organized with some of the other moms the Moms Retreat last year, and it was incredible. The level of connectivity and the support and the togetherness that I think people were able to feel and achieve by attending the retreat. So we definitely want to continue to have the Moms Retreat and consider other things. And, you know, again, Lindsay had mentioned that, but to be able to do that on a broader scale, I think will be really great to help kind of cement the base. And that leads into the next point, which is, you know, grow and advocate our base and network of families. We're trying to find more and more ways to connect in an increasingly digital and social media driven world. I feel like real connections can be challenging. You know, one of the things, you know, we haven't really talked about financials, and we'll cover that a little bit at a very high level, but, you know, it's amazing what you can do when you galvanize a community together and show people that it's not just something that is lip service, that it's providing real information, real support, both emotionally from a resource perspective and helping their kids be their best selves. But it also helps us as a foundation accomplish our mission better. Not only by getting the word out, but, you know, in 2017 for 22q Awareness Month in November, We didn't really have a target. We just wanted to get the word out there about what 22Q is and what the foundation is, and we wanted to raise some funds. And we did fine. We raised about $3,000, including a Facebook match. And last year we launched our ambassador program, which was a lot of the moms that had attended the retreat that really understand the value of what we're offering and more of the intricacies of what we offer and how we offer it, how we wish to connect with families. And by creating these ambassadors, we were able to reach a whole new network, and we raised $24,000 during Awareness Month, which was huge. I mean, we as a foundation have been running in a deficit since the inception, and we were lucky enough to inherit some funds from the Dempster family as well as part of the foundation. And that's kind of kept us afloat. But funding is something that we need to be able to continue to really get our mission accomplished and get out there. So another way in which kind of in the near term we hope to accomplish some of these goals is just building better connections with the foundation and the people that are receiving services and that are part of the community, not just through individual connection, personal connection, like meeting, but hey, we know who you are, we know when your kids' birthdays are, we want to send them birthday cards, send out Mother's Day cards. So we're looking at some technological solutions for that, and also discussing sending out hard copy cards for some of those things. Longer term, we want to build some of the partnerships. I mentioned that when I had the 22Q at the zoo at Brookfield Zoo this year in Chicago, they have an inclusion program. So they are considering actually doing an awareness campaign at the zoo for 22Q, and we're going to talk more about timing for that. But what are other groups that we can partner with? Donna does a great job of advocating for IEPs and being kind of an expert resource when things are in court. But are there attorneys that can be helpful to us that focus on special education, that can be a part of some of these more complex cases? We want to build a better network of being able to provide support to families on the phone, via email when they're newly diagnosed and they reach out to the foundation, as well as occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy services that are available to consult with families just like Donna does. We started doing something called Honest Conversation as well in earlier this year, and the idea was, let's get a group of people together in a private group and just talk about some of the challenges we face. What does it mean to have a child with 22Q? And they're very personal, intimate conversations, honest conversations, no pun intended there, but meant to elicit, what are the things that we struggle with? Just not only with our kids, but, even in our marriages, as a family, with other siblings. And how do you contend with that? What are good tools and ways in which we can kind of accomplish our goals there? Other webinars that we're planning on doing, we had an ABLE seminar where a member of the ABLE program, which is a financial program, savings type program, came and spoke on a webinar to as many families as wanted to attend about what that program is, how to sign up for it. And, we had the neurodevelopmental pediatrician at Lurie's in Chicago, and we were able to stream that live and provide a recording of that for families later. So we're going to continue to be able to do that and provide some of these resources to schools as well, so that they can understand better what some of these families are dealing with day in, day out. And lastly, we want to build relationships with educational institutions to improve the knowledge of 22Q. So who are the top educators of kids with special needs and or just the educational system, broadly speaking? I think that diverse learning is becoming a more and more important, relevant, and discussed topic in schools today. And so how can we continue to bolster that? And part of that is going to be Donna's book as well, being able to utilize the tools that she's already developed for families with VCFS and with 22Q to the broader population, using 22Q as a case study almost. I think that'll be really interesting and worthwhile as well. Lindsay, was there anything else you want to add there?
No, I think you covered it. We're excited. I mean, we are really dedicated to keeping the 22Q Family Foundation alive. There's, unfortunately been a lot of foundations supporting the 22Q community that have closed over the years, and this is something that we want to be sustaining. And due to your generous donations, we're able to do that. But we need, continue to need your help and support. feedback is always, important to us, what we can do better. Also just, reaching out if you are ever interested in volunteering. That's how we were able to find Jason and start the Career Pathways program. So a lot of times it's just, having a conversation with me about what your skill set is. It might be an area of need that, we're looking to fill, like Capilla mentioned before. We're really trying to build an auxiliary board of people, that could help us with, special needs, attorney situations would be helpful, and other areas that would be an overall improvement to our foundation and to help the lives of the families. Also, just with fundraising, and we always accept and are willing to accept ideas for fundraising. So whether it's, hosting a virtual 5K run with your employers. We had someone that did a wear blue jeans day to work day, and they collected money and raised funds. We had someone else that attended like a beard contest in Kentucky, who could grow out like the longest beard, and all those funds went to our foundation. So obviously open to any other ideas, but we're always welcoming of that. And also, of course, just donating and considering, if you have donated in the past, to consider making, your donation a recurring donation. That's a donation that you can give, over the year, whether it's monthly or quarterly or yearly. And you can easily do that by just texting 22Q to 41444, or also, on our website, on our donate button, and also as well on our Facebook page. So I wanted to turn it over to Capil for those last remaining minutes. I'm sorry we went over, but just to share briefly about kind of our financials from the foundation, and then we will end our call.
Thanks, Lindsay. So, I think that anyone that is part of, the giving community, the philanthropic community, understands that everyone is always trying to raise money, and it's a challenge. And I think that in today's environment, it becomes even more challenging, just because there have been tax law changes. I think that there's a lot of, sorry, 1 second. Okay, there's been a lot of, changes in the fundraising environment, just because there's so much out there on social media. So many people are trying to raise for so many different causes. It's hard to know where to give and how to give, and where, your dollars are going to be most useful. So, almost 100% of the donations that come into the 22Q Family Foundation go directly to services for these families. I think that's an incredible thing. Lindsay spends, 4 or 5 hours a day, if not more, on doing Family Foundation things. We are all the board members are doing this on a volunteer basis, and a lot of our support is volunteer efforts as well. And I think our annual operating budget is around $125,000, and that again goes directly to all of these families. But it's challenging in the to be able to raise those funds. So I think before I joined, Lindsay and I were looking through the financials, and in 17 and 18, actually 16 and 17, we were raising about 50 or 60,000 a year, and really having a lot of cash burn from savings. And last year we were able to hit almost $100,000, which was incredible, and obviously a huge increase over prior years. But that momentum needs to continue. Some of the challenges, as I mentioned, are just the inundation that people have on social media, understanding how to motivate your base. The 22Q families also, we don't want to continually be raising money from the families that are receiving support. For families that have medically complex kids, it can be very, very challenging just to deal with your day to day. For the last 2 weeks, for example, my son Niam has not been feeling well, and we went to endocrinology, we went to immunology, we went to cardiology, we went to a pediatrician, and scheduling all of those appointments, just being worried about him, that really consumes every part of you. And so we don't want the emotional burden necessarily just on the families, but we also want people to be able to understand that financially it can be a challenge for families that have medically complex kids as well, because healthcare costs are rising in the country, and all of those things contribute to just making it even more difficult to continue to raise from the same base. So we would love ideas like Lindsay mentioned, the virtual run, other ways that we can engage other people's communities as well. That not only helps to raise awareness about what is the second most common genetic disorder following Down syndrome, but it also helps to understand that we all have differences, we all face challenges, and we all need to just kind of find ways to work together to support each other. I think that the more that we can think about it that way, and the more that we can work together, the better off we'll all be. There's a number of ways, as Lindsay mentioned, to donate. We have text to donate buttons. We can do a lot of custom things as well if people are interested. And so, the main ask here is not only to continue your incredibly generous support, but also to just brainstorm with us and work with us, come up with ideas as to things that you found interesting or useful, and ways in which you've seen other organizations fundraise that maybe we can leverage. And we would love to work with you and partner with you on those things. And, thank you so much for your continued support. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. And we just hope that this call helped really show you how your donations are directly impacting families' lives and the families that are in need in our 22Q community. And I also just wanted to take, again, another moment to thank all of the speakers today for being here. And again, thank you so much for all of your donations. And we hope to continue to receive your support in the future. Thanks, everyone.